Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 9:06 a.m. Today is November 8th, and I'm calling to order the meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. Raymond, could you do roll call, please, for
Yes,
the
ma'am.
record?
Ms. Wilson?
Here?
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Reyes?
Here.
Ms. Bettis?
Here.
Ms. Bird?
Here.
Ms. Stevens?
Here.
And Ms. Enriquez is out. We do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Are there any public comments this morning?
No, ma'am, none received.
Then I'll move to Agenda Item 2, adoption of the minutes of the RMA Board meeting of October 11th, 2023. Has everyone had a chance to review? Are there any comments, amendments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 3, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the execution of the following instruments as they relate to the Darrington Roadway Project. A, interlocal agreement amendment with El Paso County. B, work authorization number 2 amendment with Hewitt Zollers, Inc. C, work authorization number 24 amendment with Atkins North America, Inc. And 4, work order authorization number 24.1 with Atkins North America, Inc.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Raymond Tejas, Executive Director with the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. So as read into the record, we're dealing today first with Darrington Roadway Project. This is one of the projects that we're developing in cooperation with the County of El Paso. This is the roadway at the end of Pelicano. What we're doing here, and so let me take a step back. So the original agreement between the RMA and the county was for the RMA to provide design services to complete this roadway. What we're doing today is amending that interlocal agreement with the county to provide 2 additional types of services. One is additional design services. That's for additional activities to work on the construction phasing and also to work in what's referred to as a shoe fly, so like a temporary roadway to allow commuters to continue to use the intersection of Pelicano and Darrington Roadway during construction. So those are the 2 activities that we're adding that were not originally anticipated. So in the interlocal, you'll see additional funds added for both of those activities. That's under 3A. 3B then is the design agreement that we have with Hewitt Zollers. We are adding the additional design services, as I mentioned, those construction phasing and the shoe fly design. Hewitt Zollers will provide those under 3B. 3C is actually, I'll be asking for that item to be deleted. Originally, we thought that there would be increased oversight by Atkins as our general engineering consultant team, but we have enough budget in there to allow for that. So 3C will be deleted, or I'll be requesting that. And then lastly, 3D, there are some parcels that are needed to accomplish the shoe fly at that intersection. The county had been pursuing those parcels, but they've asked for our assistance in that. So we'll take over the acquisition of, I believe it's 5 parcels plus 1 temporary construction easement. And that's what you see under 3D, bringing Atkins on under a new work authorization to complete those activities. So happy to answer any questions, but I would recommend approval of items 3A, 3B, 3D, and a deletion of item 3C.
Are there any questions? Any discussion? Yes, sir?
Yeah. I don't know if it's specifically related to this project itself, but it seems to me I've been seeing quite a bit of bad press about all the construction and stuff going on out there. I'm sure it's related to our problem that we've got out there, but is everything from our perspective going okay with the exception of the one?
I think the answer is yes, with the big exception of Pelicano, right? So I've seen some press on that as well. The complaints relate to Mission Ridge, which was a project that we were involved in, that we have been involved in. However, that relates to the sinkhole that we told you about several months back. So there was a sinkhole that was caused by some issues with the water line that was installed by the mud out there. And that sinkhole has not been repaired yet, so that's creating some traffic problems. And then from there, the community continues to talk about Pelicano, of course. This roadway is not in existence, so this would be a new construction, so it should not impact, especially since Well, it'll obviously impact, everything impacts traffic in the area, but the addition of the shoe fly will help alleviate some of that impact. So we think that would be helpful.
It appeared to me from what I was able to glean from what I saw, that there appears to be a memory problem on the part of the public of what it was like before we started building those new roads out there. And so, but they have caused quite a bit of growth, so I guess I can see that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is there any update on the status of the sinkhole?
I believe, yeah, we'll ask Mr. Fino to provide an update.
Edgar Fino, GEC with Atkins. The ongoing work from the MUD and their consultant started outside of the sinkhole area. The county and the Atkins inspection found some voids underneath the pavement and also underneath the curb and the sidewalk that the MUD agreed with the county to repair that area also. So that's the additional work that's ongoing with the same traffic control where northbound is closed and one lane is going northbound and one lane is southbound. So traffic control wise, it's still the same, but there's additional work that the MUD got a new contractor on board to make those repairs. So that additional work is ongoing right now. It just started, and we're looking, time frame wise, it's either going to be 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
In regards to that being completed.
Okay. All right, is that being communicated out there in any way?
Well, that's being handled by El Paso County.
Okay.
Since, I mean, the road was open when this sinkhole was
Happened?
created. Yep. So all lanes were open, all 6 lanes were open. So the county is working directly with the MUD and their consultant to getting these repairs. So that's all been 100% county to get out to the public.
You ought to ask them if it would be helpful for us to assist them with communicating, since we do a lot anyway out in that area because of the other project. I don't know how close it is, but I'm assuming it's sort of in the general proximity. So you sort of have a database already of interested and probably irritated, stakeholders, that if we help, maybe just offered to help them get some information out about what's going on, and the time frame estimated to get that done, might be helpful to them.
I can do that.
All right, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
The only downside to that, I mean, I agree, we probably should, but the downside is that then it becomes appearance of our issue. Not that the public really distinguishes.
I mean, we don't
between
have to be
two.
the messenger, but we have a database. I mean, we could like,
Yeah.
Okay,
we
yeah,
could send
just
it
use
out
the
on their
database.
on behalf of El Paso County.
Either way, I mean, and again, the public doesn't really distinguish, but
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
I don't
saying,
really, I mean,
given the
frankly,
bad
I
press.
don't necessarily care that much, because I feel like it's our project anyway, and at least if we're showing a proactive approach, that we're like trying to make sure these things are getting remedied and stuff regardless of the issues, it's better than just sort of letting everybody mull and stew and be mad and start it was our Mission Hills was a project we worked on for the county, so I don't know that we could be totally removed from it,
Yeah. In
even if it
general, I
wasn't our
agree.
fault.
I agree with that, just.
Just see
That's,
if what they're
again, our
doing,
issue.
yeah, at the end of the day, just see what they're doing, and do they want to use our database that we have for the Pelicano project to send something out, we can assist them with that.
Yeah,
ma'am.
but we don't want to get into a hot potato
No,
with
I
the
know.
county, because they'll be only too glad to say, oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the RMA, that's right, they messed this up.
I don't know that, well, okay, I understand that. So, okay. Any other discussion about this? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve items, which one are we on, 3 or 4?
3.
3, I'm sorry. 3A, B, and D, and delete item C.
So move.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, then moving on to item 4, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the execution of the following instruments as they relate to the Bob Hope Drive Extension Project. A, interlocal amendment with El Paso County. B, work authorization number 3, amendment with CEA Engineering Group, Inc. C, work authorization number 42, amendment with Atkins North America, Inc. And D, work authorization number 42.1 with Atkins North America, Inc.
Okay, this is another project that we have partnered with El Paso County on. This is Bob Hope out on the far east side. What you see under item 4A is an amendment to the interlocal with the county to provide additional funding for, again, 2 types of services. The first one is additional design services. This one requires additional design services related to additional unanticipated coordination with TxDOT on 2 roundabouts that are being proposed for Bob Hope, which ultimately Bob Hope connects to TxDOT's frontage roads. So they wanted to discuss those those proposed roundabouts. In addition, there's a joint use pond proposed, which would be used with El Paso Water, and there was additional coordination there, more coordination than was originally anticipated. And lastly, a really interesting issue that we've run into is in the general area of the proposed alignment, there are private properties that have been receiving construction waste. So there are piles and piles of construction waste that will eventually impact, that have impacted the way that this project needs to be designed. So there's additional design services related to how to deal with that additional construction debris that's been placed on some of those private properties. So those 3 main components amount for the majority of the additional design services that were not originally anticipated that need to be added and are being requested by the county. And then in addition, there are right-of-way acquisitions that the county has requested to expedite. So there will be a larger number of parcels that will be needed to be acquired for this project that we will come back and do and handle for the county. But at the outset, the county is looking at buying 4 strategically identified parcels as it relates specifically to that disposal. So those construction disposal materials are being placed in the alignment. So the county wants to get ahead of it and try to get ownership of those particular parcels. So that's the other component that's being added under the interlocal agreement amendment under 4A. So then to implement those activities, 4B has an amendment to the design agreement with CEA Engineering Group to provide those additional funds for the design services I mentioned. 4C is additional oversight that Atkins requires to do the oversight for the additional design services being provided by CEA. And then lastly, 4D is a new work authorization with Atkins whereby they would provide the acquisition services for us for those initial parcels being requested by the county. I should have mentioned on the last one, but as with all of these county-related projects, the fees and scopes have been reviewed and approved by the county. So with that, I would recommend approval of all of these items under number 4.
Any discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
I second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to work authorization number 47 with Atkins North America, Inc., related to the Ascension Street improvements project.
This was an oversight from last month, so I apologize for this. I mentioned it last month. We brought several amendments. Actually, let me take you back to that item. So Ascension was a project that we designed on behalf of the county, and then TxDOT took over the construction for the county. So what we did at last month's meeting was to provide some additional funds from the county for us to provide design services during construction. What I forgot to bring forward was the associated Atkins work authorization amendment so that they could provide additional oversight services to the design firm that we are continuing to provide to the county. So that's what you see before you. And again, this fee and scope was reviewed and approved by the county. So I would recommend approval of item number 5.
Any discussion? Questions? I'll call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 6, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing execution of amendments to the following instruments as they relate to the Valley Chile Road project. Interlocal agreement with the Village of Vinton, Texas, And B, advance funding agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation.
This is actually a really interesting one. As you know, we've talked about the Valley Chili Road before. This is a project that we've partnered with the Village of Vinton on. This is a reconstruction of the roadway that connects from the frontage road near the Great American restaurant and then heads down to Doniphan. That's within the Village of Vinton. So we have provided the design services, and we will be providing the construction services as well. However, this project, when it was first initially scoped and dollars were put to it, it was before the inflation that we've been seeing and before the pandemic, before all these impacts. So the construction cost estimate has significantly increased from the amount that was originally provided by the MPO, and that was matched by local dollars from Vinton. So because we were seeing those larger numbers, we started looking at different alternatives to deal with that shortfall. Ultimately, we went to the MPO, we identified the issue, and the MPO, it seems so far, they have identified some additional funds that we could bring in on the federal side, which of course would require an increase in the local match from the Village of Vinton. So we've been coordinating all of that between the entities. We've gone before the Transportation Project Advisory Committee, which is the initial step at the MPO. They've approved the increase, and the increase, I should note, is $2,960,000 from the federal side. From the local side, it would be an increase of $740,000 from Vinton. So it's significant, but it's necessary for this particular project. So that is what we've proposed. The Village of Vinton is supportive of this. It's gone through the Transportation Project Advisory Committee of the MPO, and will be going to the full Transportation Policy Board of the MPO at their next meeting. So what you have before you is a little bit odd, and we normally don't do this, but you've got resolutions for items 6A and 6B. 6A would authorize staff to go and negotiate the revised interlocal agreement with Vinton to implement this process. 6B authorizes staff to go and negotiate a revised interlocal, or I should say advanced funding agreement with TxDOT to implement the same. Since we haven't gotten through the final step of the MPO process, I don't have those agreements yet. So it's a bit of a blanket authorization that I'm seeking, but because of the timing and in order to stay on track for a May 2024 letting, I'm asking for that authorization from you today.
Any questions?
I did not know that TxDOT was involved in this project itself before. Is that the conduit for the federal fund?
That's right. So whenever federal dollars come down to the local governmental entities, TxDOT is the delegated authority from the Fed, so we have to sign in. Usually there are advanced funding agreements, there are different styles of agreements, but whenever we access federal funds, they come through TxDOT.
Yes, sir.
Is this project here that we're talking about, is that going to impact what's going on with I-10, causing those delays and all that?
I don't know about the timing for that component of the TxDOT project, so I couldn't tell you just yet. Edgar, do you have a feeling?
Yeah, good morning, Ed Grafino, Madam Chair, board members. This project, since it's federally funded with TxDOT oversight, we've had to go through the TxDOT process, which means we had to submit and present our traffic control for this project that TxDOT approved. They gave us comments and approved. And during those discussions, we've been talking about the ongoing project that TxDOT has. And at this moment, there's no conflicts. I mean, it's still going to be a mess out there with I-10 TxDOT project, but there's no conflicts on the frontage road where Valley Chili ties into I-10 frontage road. So we have been coordinating with TxDOT with not only the traffic section and the district, but also with the West Area office under Jonathan Concha there at Hondo Pass. So ongoing coordination, and we're still going to be doing that until ready to let in regards to the progress that TxDOT has made on their project.
And the reason I ask that is because at least I hear from people who says, what in the world are you guys thinking doing this project at the same time this other one is going on, just adding to the turmoil and chaos? So that's why if you can just make sure we we're kept in the loop in terms of being briefed. Because at least I like to respond to.
Yes, sir. We'll keep you posted on all of those dates as we get closer to the letting. Yes, sir.
Because at this point, the timeframe from the letting is May 24.
Correct.
So we've got a good 6 months to kind of see what's going on. TxDOT may change their mind and delay if there's too much of a conflict. We'll just have to wait till we get to that point. But I'm really excited to see us moving forward and coordinating more with TxDOT and with some of these smaller jurisdictions and getting some of these big projects going. So this is a good opportunity, I think, for everybody. If there are no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. So the next one, let me see, I keep losing my place here. Okay, number 7, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the execution of the following instruments as they relate to the Paso del Norte TxDOT Raise Grant Trail Project. A, the interlocal agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation. B, work authorization number 1 with ACOM Technical Services, Inc. And C, work authorization number 57 with Atkins North America, Inc.
Okay, this is a really interesting one. I'm very excited about this one. This is the first project that we've partnered directly with TxDOT on in quite some time. So for this one, TxDOT went out for a federal RAISE grant as part of the larger BIL program from the feds. And they were successful in receiving funds for 2 main trail components, one of them in El Paso and then one of them somewhere else in the state. This one is part of the Paso del Norte Trail system that the Paso del Norte Health Foundation is pursuing. And this particular section runs from Isleta to Socorro. So this is a really big, important segment of that particular trail. So when TxDOT was awarded, they actually asked us if we could support their efforts. So we are providing the design services for this project under these agreements that you see here. So under item 7A, you've got the actual interlocal agreement, and this is, as I mentioned before, you have different agreements with the entity depending on what you're doing. This one is actually an interlocal agreement with TxDOT, whereby they are in effect hiring us to do the design and for this particular project. That's 7A. 7B, then we are using from our indefinite deliverables teams, our rotating engineering firms. We're using AECOM to provide the design services for this under item 7B. And then item 7C has Atkins serving as our general engineering consultant to do the design oversight for us. All of the fees and scopes have been reviewed and approved by TxDOT for this particular item, so I would recommend approval of item 7.
Yes.
Do we have a graphic of that section of the trail?
You know, we do. I don't know.
If it's not handy, you can send it to me later. I'm just.
Do you have it up? Or is it part of that? I've got one. It's a little rudimentary, and if he doesn't have it handy, then I'll email it to the board. Okay. But part of what we're preparing for the January board meeting is a year-end wrap-up, and we've got some nice graphics, and included in that list of to-do is a nice graphic showing not only this particular trail, but all of the trails that we are involved in, so that you can see the pieces that we're putting together, because there are several.
I'm having trouble visualizing that segment.
We've got this from the interlocal TxDOT, but it's got several maps on it.
Yeah, that one's tough, because it's just this trail actually consists of about, I think it's 9 different pieces.
Okay.
So the agreement has the pieces, but I've got a graphic that I'll email to you if you don't mind. Right. And it's got the different segments. Yes, sir.
I have a question. On Part A, there is no terminating date for the contract?
I don't believe there is. This is an agreement that would continue until completion of the project. Okay. I believe.
And right now, we're just doing design.
Correct.
Is there an opportunity to oversee construction at some point?
Potentially. So
Okay,
we,
good.
yeah, we're always asking if they'd like us to complete.
Okay, great. All right. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. The next one is item 8, discussion and action on board resolution authorizing the execution of amendment to work authorization number 61 with Atkins North America, Inc., related to the Mission Valley segment of the Paseo del Norte Trail.
This one should look familiar to you. I brought it to you all last month. It was a bit of a rush item. At the time, the county well, I should say, the county still is pursuing a grant for this segment of the Paso del Norte Trail. And this segment, actually, what we talked about last month was running from Socorro to San Elizario. And that the original plan was that the county is developing this grant application to be submitted to the Economic Development Administration. And it was that segment. And we were rushing to get it done. They had a pretty tight timeline. Since then, the county has had multiple conversations with the Economic Development Administration, and they've suggested that they extend the route, adding another 8.5 miles. So the trail would actually add the section from San Elizario to Fabens. So the proposed grant application now would go from Socorro all the way down to Fabens. So it's a significant piece of the Paso Norte Trail. So we're really excited about this. We're hopeful that it is approved. Ultimately, what's being asked of us is to provide the technical documents to be added to the grant application that the county is developing. So it's really just the engineering type of sheets that would be added. So that's what you're seeing today. It's an amendment to the work authorization with Atkins, who is providing these technical documents for us to add funding to extend the alignment an additional 8.5 miles. So I would recommend approval of this item.
This is all part of the same project, right? The whole mission, the whole Paseo del Norte Trail, this is another piece, right?
That's right. And
Another funding source?
That's exactly right. So you'll see when I send you that graphic later today, you'll see we are now involved in 3 or maybe 4 different pieces of the trail. So it's exciting for us. We've always wanted to play a larger role in it, and we're actually getting to partner with these agencies that
Awesome.
want it done.
Great. Okay, any questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
I second it.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 9, discussion and action on the following reports for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2023. The CRRMA operating budget, B, investment report, C, El Paso Bike Share Program, and D, General Engineering Consultants Team's use of local resources.
Good morning, Robert Studer, Director of Finance. For the record, the Finance Committee met Monday to review these items. As a reminder, with the fourth quarter, these are not, the first 2 have not been audited. We have begun the audit, and we'll talk about that in the next item. But the Finance Committee met, reviewed these items. Today, we're really just asking for a motion to accept the reports. I would note for the board that didn't review them, the investment report looks different. You may recall we have started purchasing treasuries and have expanded our portfolio, so that requires some changes so that we can list out the securities that we own now. We previously did not have to do that, and so the format of that is just a little bit different when you go to look at it, but the information is basically the same. But other than that, I would just request a motion to accept the reports.
Can you add why we haven't started with the budget?
The audit?
I mean the audit.
So that's actually in the next item, if I can give an update there.
Okay.
But yes.
Has everyone had a chance to review the documents? Is there a need to go through them in detail?
What I would suggest, even if you haven't read it so far, you could still read it before our next meeting, for the simple fact that by then we've been started with parts of the audit. and then you can address the questions there.
Yeah, so prior to the January board meeting, we should meet with the Finance Committee to go over the audit in full depth. For the fourth quarter, in the past, I've not done any kind of update for the financial statement, just because it's in flux as we are recategorizing things and working through it. In this instance, I told the Finance Committee I'd bring them an update on the operating budget for the RMA, and just as an update, we finished to the good last year. We had more revenue than we had expenses last year, and so that, I guess, is the update for the board. With the increased investment returns, we had a good year last year. So I do think that's good for you all to know.
My only question is on the project admin fees. Is that timing or?
Yes, it is timing. In fact, we've added quite a few in the last 2 to 3 months, but on many of them, you'll notice we start with design, and then we may have right-of-way, we have construction. We typically invoice at the end, and so we have several others right now that we should be getting to. John Hayes, that should be going to construction soon. We'll be invoicing for the design. That's $72,000, I believe, but that's a change, and we actually talked about that in the Finance Committee when we were doing the budget. It's a timing issue. We're going to get paid, but yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion to approve, to accept the reports.
Second?
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to staff reports. Number 10, 10A, the FY23 annual audit. B, Border Expressway project, and C, Palo Cano Drive widening project.
Robert Studer again for the record. So the audit, when we met Monday morning, I was under the impression we had not begun yet. I actually called the auditor when we got out, and we have begun as of Monday morning. So I gave the Finance Committee an update. We were actually ready to start about a month ago. Our reports were ready, but the auditor had a prior engagement, and so she had to wrap that up before she could start on ours. So yesterday, so she started Monday, was downloading all our documents, organizing things, getting ready. Yesterday at 8:15, she called me. We had our first 2-hour conversation as she's asking me questions about, hey, this is different. You got a new account here. What's this about? And so we are definitely underway. Timeline still looks good. Should have a draft report in December that we'll provide to the Finance Committee, review it with them prior to the January board meeting, and then bring it to the full board in January. If anything changes, I'll keep Ms. Bird apprised, but we are on track.
Okay. Any questions on that? Were you going to say something?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
I was jumping to the next item.
Okay.
Yeah, I was getting ahead of you.
All right.
So item 10B then is the Border West Expressway project. So I did send you an email on this, but I thought it would be important to share this with the public and to get into a little bit more detail. As you may recall, the Border West Expressway project was a project that we partnered with TxDOT on. This is the segment that runs roughly from downtown out to Racetrack. It was originally designed and constructed as a toll road, but when we implemented the toll, when we opened it, it was put into toll deferral, a toll deferral period. So let me, if you don't mind, let me go back with a little bit of detail. You'll find also in your backup and posted online, there is a letter from the RMA and also a TxDOT motion. I'll touch on both of those here, but for the public, that is posted online as well. So going back in time to roughly 2008, the original intention from the community was to develop what was referred to at that point as the Southern Relief Route. The Southern Relief Route was essentially a toll system that consisted of tolls all along 375 from the east side at Loop 375, south along the border, all the way up to where 375 reconnects to I-10 at Sunland Park, roughly. That was referred to as the Southern Relief Route. It was identified as a toll program, as a toll system with several segments, and was approved by the MPO. So in 2008, that's what the community decided to do, and as a result of that, the RMA, in partnership with TxDOT, the MPO, and all of the other partners of the 2008 Comprehensive Mobility Plan, began implementing those individual segments. So by January of 2014, the first segment opened that was referred to as the Cesar Chavez toll lanes, which was roughly from downtown heading over to the Zaragoza port of entry. That was opened in 2014. By 2017, those tolls, the mood in the region had shifted for various reasons. By 2017, tolls had been suspended while TxDOT reviewed that facility and ultimately removed those tolls. So now when you look at that point in 2017, when you were looking at the Southern Relief Route, there was a big gap in tolls. So you had tolls on the far east side from basically the Americas interchange down to the Zaragoza port of entry. That whole segment to the US 54 interchange was no longer tolled, and that left Border Highway West. At that point, the community, through the MPO, also decided that the segment from 375, the Americas interchange down to Zaragoza port of entry should not be tolled either. So that was peeled off. I should have mentioned also the Southern Relief Route also included the Northeast Parkway as a potential toll project, which that was removed prior to this as well. So the gist that I'm getting to is that the entirety of the Southern Relief Route, all of the tolls were removed on all of these projects, even though they were built, with the exception of the Border West Expressway. So that remained as the sole toll project. Couple that fact, that big major change with COVID, with all sorts of different impacts between the original community decision to create the toll system and when we actually opened Border West Expressway, it forced us to look back and partner with TxDOT and develop what's called a traffic and revenue study. So whenever you pursue a toll project, you initially do a traffic and revenue study to identify what the revenues could be, what the expenses would be, and just to make sure that it's a feasible project. So we had done that very early on when it was part of the Southern Relief Route. Because of these various changes that I outlined, we went back and did an update to the traffic and revenue study. We partnered with TxDOT and completed that update. The result of that, and you see all of this in the letter, the result of that was, in effect, the updated traffic and revenue study said that this was, in essence, not a feasible toll road by itself. It needed to be part of that system. So because of that, you see the letter that's included in your backup of November 4th of 2020, where this board asked TxDOT to operate Border West Expressway as a non-toll facility. So that went in 2020. All sorts of changes happened over at TxDOT, including leadership changes, and this kind of got pushed to the back burner. However, last month, in October of 2022, TxDOT's governing board, the Texas Transportation Commission, approved the minute order, which is also included in your backup. And that minute order does two things. One, it reclassifies, well, it does several things actually. It authorizes staff to take those actions necessary to reclassify Border West Expressway as a non-toll. So formally remove the toll designation. That's one. And then it also directs staff to negotiate with the RMA the termination of all of those agreements that we implemented when we first pursued this project, but then also to release the RMA from any debt from this project that was originally created. So two very big steps were taken in October through that minute order. And so the next steps will be to begin those negotiations with TxDOT. And of course, all of those termination agreements, all of those things will be brought back to the board for authorization to terminate those. But I wanted to give you that backup so in case you get calls, in case you're asked about it, you know exactly where we are and how we got here. So there's no action requested on this particular item. There will be at some point once the termination agreements begin rolling out between TxDOT and the RMA, and I'll bring those to you, much like we did for Chavez. But until then, there's really no action on this item. But I'm happy to answer any questions should you have any.
Do you think usage will increase? And I guess I never knew on maps or, Google Maps, that kind of thing, it was indicated as a toll. So do you think usage will increase?
It's a good question, and honestly, I'm not really sure. I know that there is still a lot of confusion about whether it's a toll road because I receive emails often several times a week asking, where do I pay the toll? I just took the toll road, right? And I get calls still. So I know there is confusion. Once those toll signs come down, I am very curious about it. And I'll ask TxDOT if they're doing counts now and what they look like afterwards. But I don't know the answer.
I think you should leave them up for me.
To keep congestion light, yeah.
Actually, they're pretty busy, I think. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm wondering, a key part in this toll, no toll issue was Joe Pickett. He was, I mean, I know that his office surveyed my office about should it be done. I oppose the tolling, but would it be, maybe it would be useful to ask if he could come in and give the background and perspective on it. I know to this day he stays involved with that. Apparently there's equipment that's going to be made available to sell.
Well, probably not.
Not?
Honestly, the equipment that we installed back in, what was it, 2019, Border West Expressway. So we installed up until October of 2019. That equipment is not likely to be used anywhere else. It's been sitting out there and it hasn't been operated. So I don't think there's any resale value. We had the same issue with TechSouth when we unwound the Cesar Chavez project. That equipment we tried to donate to another sister tolling agency, but because the state owned it, there were lots of issues about how to dispose of state-owned property and that sort of thing. So I would be very surprised if that equipment if it's actually used.
Do you still keep in touch with Joe Pickett?
I've not heard from him in quite some time, but I did see him after this action at the Transportation Commission. I did see him in the media talking about this. I did see that.
What, maybe
I don't know what, I mean, I don't know what purpose it would serve to do a detail on it, other than what Raymond just provided us, that it was originally designed as a toll road as part of the mobility program, and the purpose was to provide an alternative source of funding down the road for the RMA to use for other projects, to help fund other projects. When Joe Pickett was state rep, he was opposed to it, and he was the one that negotiated to get them removed and to have all of the debt or the cost of the project paid off by TxDOT, because we were paying, I mean, part of the early income was we were helping to pay for the cost of the construction. And he took care of that and satisfied that, so that burden that was on the RMA and TxDOT went away. And it's just a matter of formally rescinding it so we can take the signage down. I mean, I don't know of anyone, well, obviously people think it's a toll road because there's signs, but I mean, it was pretty widely discussed at the time when they were removing it. So hopefully once the signs come down, we can do some kind of maybe TxDOT and us can do some kind of joint notice of letting people know that they're open as part of a general roadway system, an alternative. But if you'd like for him to come in, we can coordinate with him.
Well, I mean, that was just, I was just thinking.
Does anyone else want to be briefed?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So we won't do that for now, but if something comes up later and we want to revisit it, I'm happy to do that for you. All right, so with that, then we're going to move to item C, Pelicano Drive widening, which will go into executive session. So it is
Actually,
now.
if you'll allow me, there's a couple of comments I want to make for
Okay.
the public benefit, and then I'll ask to go into executive for a little more detailed discussion. And I'll be brief. A couple of points I want to make. In terms of outreach, I will be presenting to Commissioners Court on Monday. We haven't been by in a while. We've been sending some written updates, but I'll be actually in person on Monday for Commissioners Court to provide them an update. On the bankruptcy side, as a reminder, we spoke about this last month. The bankruptcy has, of course, been converted to a Chapter 7. A Chapter 7 trustee has been identified, named, and has since taken possession of the contractor's assets. That Chapter 7 trustee has received approval from the court to bring on an attorney to provide guidance as the trustee begins liquidation. And the trustee has actually begun liquidating the assets of the contractor. By way of example, back in October, there was a hearing that I monitored where approximately $5 million worth of assets between JR and the sister company, Paso Norte Materials, was sold. So the trustee is actively liquidating the assets of that those estates. There is a hearing scheduled today for additional motions to relieve, for relief from the stay, and another hearing tomorrow for additional items that are being sold. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what's happening on the bankruptcy side. On the default side, and I mentioned this last time, we have had an initial discussion with the surety to begin those negotiations with them. And the surety has since met with the Chapter 7 trustee, and I've had some calls into the Chapter 7 trustee so that we can develop that relationship with that trustee as well. So that's what I have for the public. There are some additional items I'd like to share with you in executive session with our attorney. Happy to answer any questions, but otherwise I would recommend we go to executive session.
Okay, so it's 9:50. It's now 9:51 a.m. on November 8th, 2023, and the RMA Board of Directors will now retire into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 for the purpose of consultation with an attorney. We'll reconvene the open meeting upon conclusion of the executive session. It is now, let me see what time. 10:23 a.m. on November 8th, 2023, and the Board of Directors of the RMA is reconvening its open meeting after deliberations in executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071. The board consulted with its attorney but took no action in executive session, and there's no further action in open session on this item either. Therefore, there is no additional business, and so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
So move.
I mean,
Moved and second?
yes.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned 10:24 a.m.